Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole Lore and Fray, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon, to be released on June 10, 2023. This weekend, I spent a little bit of time playing Splatoon 3. I popped it in, had a great time, played it for about an hour, and then, of course, moved on to other games. But it kind of made me, think about, what I value about video games, what I enjoy about them, what I really expect from games like Splatoon. And, when you really get right down to it, I'm here to have fun, all right? I'm here to find myself engaged with interesting, compelling content. And I, upon playing Splatoon 3, every time I play Splatoon 3, I find myself taken aback by how complex it is, how deep it is, and how much fun it is. It is the complete opposite reaction I've had to something like Overwatch or, Foam Stars or anything like that. Like, when it comes to this specific thing, colorful third-person online shooter games, there really is nothing that really comes close to Splatoon, right? In spite of all the complaints, in spite of all the whining, in spite of all the excuses made, Splatoon has demolished Overwatch in every single way, shape, and form. It actually has a single player campaign. It actually has variety in the mode design. It actually has, fun, interesting characters. It has a good plot. It has a good setting with a lot of potential. Splatoon has knocked it out of the park for the past 8 years, right? Meanwhile, Overwatch was floundering even before it even really got off the ground, right? Blizzard managed to trick a generation of people into thinking this game was the greatest thing ever, but when it came time to release the sequel, what happens? They overpromise and underdeliver. Right, Blizzard was not capable of putting out an Overwatch 2, and I think even the most dedicated hardcore fanboys are beginning to admit that. And the thing is, when you compare that to what Splatoon did with its DLC, with its update schedule, with its new releases, Splatoon has been more successful than Overwatch over the past couple of years because it's been able to grow, expand, and get new releases within a reasonable time frame. Right? Splatoon has been able to constantly evolve, constantly introduce new things, constantly keep people engaged in spite of all of the damage control and the fanboyism, right? How many people have tried to tell us that Splatoon 3 is the same game as Splatoon 2, which isn't true at all. Going back to Splatoon 3, you find yourself really appreciating all the details that are different. You really find yourself appreciating the balance changes and the world change. You really find yourself I really have found myself excited as of late for the new DLC campaign that's coming later this year. It's something that I think is probably one of those Nintendo releases that I'm looking forward to the most, right? I think Splatoon 2's DLC campaign is one of the best I've ever played ever, right? So Splatoon 3's is, I think, going to be phenomenal when we finally get a release date for it and finally just get to the bottom of what this game actually is. I love Splatoon 2's Octopass expansion, so seeing more of that is going to be phenomenal. What exactly are Overwatch fans looking forward to? Right? You guys, I remember when 2016, in 2016 when Overwatch came out, people were pretending to be excited about the lore and the characters of Overwatch, but you don't even have a single player mode. You don't even have any real story driven content. Even back then, the hype around Overwatch and it's fake as hell universe and lore, even that was off putting. Even back then, that was off putting. There was supposedly some big push to pretend that Overwatch was some cutting edge thing, right? And all that's changed over the past 7 years is people have gotten tired of it. People have stopped being invested in Overwatch. They've stopped making excuses for Blizzard. They've stopped making excuses for the game. They stopped making excuses for the developers. People are tuning out of Overwatch en masse. And it's remarkable how Overwatch 2 is technically a free download. It technically all that it requires really is a BattleNet account, which is free. And even I couldn't be bothered to download it. Even I, when I downloaded Overwatch 2 some time ago, like, when I get to a sign in screen in something like that, like, I just delete the app. I'm not bothering with that. That's stupid. So the fact is, even at that, like, in that way, right? Even with that, like, if I'm not even booting the game up, all right, for even though it's completely free, that really just goes to show you just how off-putting Overwatch has become to like general audiences, right? Like at the very least, I would have like tried to play the game and like given some like analysis on how good it is on Switch and talked about the characters a little bit and maybe get a feel for the game. I can't even do that because of how the it requires a Battle.net subscription. That's stupid, right? I would rather just play the game. And as a result of that, like I just end up going back to Splatoon over and over and over and over again. All right. I think Splatoon 3 is a very underappreciated title. Splatoon as a franchise is very underappreciated, but I think Splatoon 3 in general is as well. That and like Nintendo Switch Sports, I think, were two of the most downplayed games of the past year or so. I felt as if Splatoon 3 really should have gotten more of an appreciation from the audience and from fans in general. Even now, I still see people trying to pretend it was somehow underwhelming or somehow disappointing or somehow didn't innovate enough. And while you're sitting here like seeing these same people like try and do the same thing with Tears of the Kingdom with none of the same success, like it really gives you some perspective as to like the only issue Splatoon has had over the past 8 years is just the religious like contempt for new Nintendo IPs. You're constantly seeing this situation where like audiences don't want to admit that this is the best thing there is in its specific niche, right? They worshipped Overwatch. They loved Overwatch. Even now, they love Overwatch, but a lot of these people will never even try Splatoon. They'll never ever even talk about it. And I think a lot of these people are going to be blindsided by Splatoon's inevitable success going into the future. I do think this is going to be the standard third-person like online shooter for kids going forward. It is eventually going to outpace Fortnite. It is eventually going to grow into its own giant franchise. It's already kind of there, but like it's taking its time like getting to that point, right? It didn't blow up the way Pokemon did, and honestly, I would argue that it doesn't really need to, right? Like I think Nintendo is really taking its time, like really building up this brand, really coming up with the world and the universe and the characters and like the ideas and really trying to make this completely unique like third person shooter franchise with all these different aspects that really make the world just feel like its own organic thing, right? I think they've had a lot of success doing that. And I feel as if the vast majority of the audience is going to someday just love Splatoon, right? The only problem we're having right now is just the typical Pretendo stuff of like downplaying every new Nintendo thing that comes out.